When I arrived, the island didn't appear on any satellite feed or military map. It was as if it had been erased or worse, hidden from any digital record. The coordinates were given to me in a sealed envelope, handwritten with precise numbers, and no return address. As I sailed across the vast Pacific, my GPS began to flicker and then went completely dark. That was the first sign something wasn't right. I had no contact with base, no confirmation, and no support. Just orders: deploy, investigate, observe, and report. The island came into view through a thick, unnatural mist, surrounded by water that shimmered like oil. It wasn't a tropical paradise, no palm trees or chirping birds, just jagged black rock, tangled vines, and trees with pale bark that resembled bone more than wood. As I docked, the engine sputtered and died, refusing to start again, as if the island itself had decided I wasn't going anywhere. I stepped onto the shore, boots sinking into wet soil that pulsed faintly beneath my feet. I looked around. No animals, no insects, no wind, just silence. I unpacked my gear and moved inland, setting up a small outpost near the base of a cliff. I pitched my tent and started documenting everything: temperature, terrain, humidity. But everything felt off. The compass spun wildly, my digital watch stopped ticking, and my radio let out nothing but static. I tried my sat phone, and it showed a single bar before dropping to zero, never recovering. I tried to write it off as interference or maybe magnetic anomalies. Still, there was a heaviness in the air I couldn't explain, like the very atmosphere was watching me, judging me, waiting. That night, as I tried to sleep, I heard the ground humming. Not a tremor, more like a heartbeat, slow and rhythmic, thudding through the earth and into my bones. It matched my pulse at first, but then it grew faster, like something underneath the island was stirring. I sat up, wide awake, shining my flashlight around the perimeter. The jungle stood still, but the trees looked different. Had that branch always pointed downward like a crooked finger? Were those roots there before? I didn't remember. The next morning, I noticed footprints bare, human-like, but wrong. Too long, too thin. They circled my tent and disappeared back into the foliage. I followed them for a short while, but lost them near a stream that flowed red with iron-rich water. Or at least I hoped it was iron. I knelt down and cupped some in my hand. But the moment I touched it, my vision blurred and a low buzzing filled my ears. I dropped it and staggered back, nauseated and dizzy, heart pounding in my throat. I couldn't shake the thought that the water didn't want me touching it. By day 3, I had recorded several strange incidents in my field log. Shadows moved where no light should have cast them. My own reflection in a puddle didn't match my movement. At one point, I thought I saw someone watching me from a ridge above, a dark figure standing impossibly still. I called out, but it didn't respond. When I looked away and then back, it was gone. I hiked to the ridge immediately, only to find claw marks on the rock, long and deep, leading away into a narrow crevice I couldn't fit through. Each night, the pulse returned, louder, closer. I started sleeping with my knife in hand and barely closed my eyes. Dreams of voices whispering in dead languages filled what little sleep I got. In one dream, more maybe it wasn't, a dream I stood at the edge of the ocean, but the water was black and faces floated just beneath the surface, mouths open in silent screams. One of them looked like me. It smiled. I tried setting up a distress beacon, but the signal never left the device. It blinked and blinked as if transmitting, but no confirmation light ever came. I thought maybe the jungle was interfering with the signal, so I hiked to the highest point I could reach. From there, I saw the island's shape clearly for the first time. It wasn't circular or random like most islands. It was shaped like an eye, with my outpost right in the center like a pupil. That was when I began to understand. I wasn't just here to observe the island. The island was observing me. The silence wasn't a lack of sound. It was listening, watching, waiting. The trees didn't grow randomly, they grew toward me. The paths I took during the day weren't the same at night. Landmarks moved, rocks shifted. Nothing was stable. Time didn't feel linear anymore. I'd check my watch, and hours would pass in what felt like minutes or the reverse. Still, I tried to hold on to protocol, log everything, record what I see, pretend I'm in control. But even my journals began changing. I wrote something one day, only to find it gone the next, replaced by messages I didn't remember writing. Don't trust the ground. It sees through your eyes. Leave before it remembers you. And yet, I stayed. Because I had to understand what this place was. Why it didn't appear on any map. Why I was sent here alone. And what, exactly, I had awakened by setting foot on it. The moment I stepped off the boat, I felt it something unnatural in the air. Like the island was breathing beneath the soil. At first, I thought it was just nerves. After all, being deployed alone to a place that doesn't appear on any satellite feed would shake anyone. But this was different. It wasn't just isolation. It was presence. The feeling that I wasn't alone, even though I saw no one. The sky was overcast, yet the light filtered through the trees in strange, shifting patterns, as if the canopy moved, subtly on its own, following me. I kept glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see someone or something behind me. But there was never anything there, at least, not at first. The first few hours were calm enough. I unpacked, secured my tent, and started mapping the nearby terrain. But the sense of being watched never faded. It intensified. The jungle around me remained eerily silent. No birds, no insects, not even the rustling of animals. It was as if the entire ecosystem had gone still, holding its breath, waiting. I didn't realize how much background noise we take for granted until it was gone. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was heavy, oppressive, like it had weight, pressing against my ears and thoughts. As I moved deeper into the forest, I began to notice something odd. The trees all leaned in the same direction toward me. Not dramatically, but just enough that it gave the sense that they were listening, watching. Some of the branches twisted in unnatural shapes, forming almost humanoid outlines that vanished. The second I focused on them, my rational mind tried to explain it away. Optical illusions, tricks of light, stress. But my instincts whispered otherwise. They screamed that I was not welcome here. I found a stone structure half buried in the earth, covered in moss and vines. It looked ancient, far older than anything that should have existed on a remote island in the Pacific. The carvings were worn but deliberate, depicting long-limbed creatures with no faces, arms raised toward a central eye symbol. The same symbol I had seen earlier, etched subtly into the ground beneath my tent. I hadn't noticed it when I first arrived, but now it was unmistakable. A giant eye just beneath the surface, perfectly symmetrical. That same watching sensation surged through me again, stronger now. Like the island wasn't just alive, but sentient. That night, as darkness fell, I made a fire to keep warm and tried to distract myself with my notes, but I couldn't focus. The The jungle whispered not with wind, but with a language I couldn't understand. Low murmurs, just beyond comprehension, like a choir of voices speaking in reverse. The fire didn't offer comfort. Its light danced strangely, casting shadows that didn't match the objects producing them. One shadow in particular stood out, moved when I didn't. It grew taller, closer. I turned around quickly. Nothing, but I knew it had been there. I felt its breath, warm and wet, on the back of my neck. Sleep became impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw images I couldn't explain. Flickers of unfamiliar symbols, faces melting into the soil, the ocean rising unnaturally high before freezing in place. At one point, I felt something crawl under my skin, not pain but movement, like small worms weaving just beneath the surface. Of my arm, I ripped off my shirt, checked in panic, but saw nothing. No marks, no blood. Still, I couldn't shake the sensation that something had entered me that the island wasn't just observing. It was seeping into me the next morning. I saw a figure again, tall, gaunt, standing far off near the tree line. It didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. I raised my binoculars, but the lens cracked the moment I looked through it. Not shattered, just a thin, perfect line across the glass, slicing the figure in half. I blinked, lowered the binoculars, and the figure was gone. I circled the area, checked for footprints, broken branches, anything, but there was nothing, like it had never been there, or like it didn't need to leave a trace. Later that day, I tried to retrace my steps back to the beach. I walked for nearly an hour, but the jungle looped back on itself. My compass spun wildly, refusing to settle. I marked trees with red chalk, but the marks vanished every time I turned around. The terrain changed without warning. Flat paths became steep. Hills, streams, reversed direction. It was as if the island was rearranging itself around me, not metaphorically, literally, shifting its bones and veins to confuse me, trap me, maybe test me. At one point, I thought I found a clearing with a view of the ocean, but what I saw instead was impossible, a mirror image of the island, floating in the sky, inverted, hanging above like a reflection in glass. But there was no surface between us, just a perfect, upside-down twin suspended in the clouds. Trees growing downward, rivers flowing up, and on that floating island, I saw myself standing in the same clearing, staring back. But the version of me there smiled, a slow, unnatural smile that stretched too wide. Then it turned and walked into the jungle, disappearing into its own upside-down world. I couldn't move for a long time after that. I just stood there, frozen, heart pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. This place didn't follow our rules. It didn't obey physics or logic. It wasn't just remote, it was separate. A fragment of reality unconnected to ours. An anomaly too big to classify. The longer I stayed, the more it knew me. It remembered my name before I spoke it, my dreams before I dreamed them. And as I began to forget what day it was, or how long I had been there, I realized something horrible. I hadn't discovered the island. It had summoned me. I first noticed the blinking when I was 12 years old. It started small, just a flicker at the edge of my vision, like static or a skipped frame in a movie. I thought it was my imagination, something to do with staring at screens too long, or not getting enough sleep. But then it happened again and again, always in the same place, our living room, right by the hallway leading to the bedrooms. Every time I walked past it, I felt like something shifted, like reality itself hiccuped. The lights would dim not dramatically, just enough to make me pause. The air felt slightly heavier, as though I had stepped through a thin sheet of warm water. I'd turn around, expecting to see someone standing there, but the hallway was always empty. Still, I never shook the feeling that something had blinked at me. Over the years, the blinking became more distinct. It wasn't just visual anymore. It had a rhythm, almost like breathing. I could feel it now. When I was alone in the house, especially at night, I could sense the space behind me close contract and expand, like something living was just behind the wall, watching through a tiny slit, blinking slowly, deliberately. My parents never noticed anything strange. My mum said I had an overactive imagination. My dad laughed it off, called it growing pains. But I started keeping a journal of when it happened. The entries weren't consistent at first, but eventually, a pattern emerged. The blinking occurred at the same time every week Wednesday nights, just after 1:13 a.m. I tried to test it. I set up a camera on a tripod in the hallway and hit record before going to bed. When I reviewed the footage the next day, the video froze for exactly 6 seconds at 1:13 a.m., then resumed as if nothing had happened. No glitch, no error message, just a void. Like time had gone missing. My parents still didn't believe me. They said it was the camera acting up, blamed Wi-Fi, interference, or old batteries. But I knew something was happening in that hallway. And whatever it was getting stronger. As I got older, the blinking started following me. It wasn't just in the hallway anymore. It happened in reflections in mirrors, in windows, even in the black screen of my phone when it was off. I'd catch it out of the corner of my eye. A pair of faint, lidless eyes, closing and opening again in total silence. I never saw a face, just the blink. Like something was always just behind the veil, watching from the other side. I stopped using mirrors. I covered the one in my room with a towel. My friends started to notice I was jumpy, that I avoided looking at anything reflective. I couldn't explain it to them without sounding insane. Then, one night, the blinking changed. It didn't just happen around MIT, happened to me. I woke up at 1:13 a.m. exactly, paralyzed. I couldn't move a muscle, couldn't scream, I could only blink. The air in the room pulsed with that same heavy rhythm, and standing at the foot of my bed, there was a figure. Tall, indistinct, like a silhouette cut from the dark itself. Its eyes were wide and glassy, but they didn't glow. They absorbed light. I watched, helpless, as it blinked once slowly. And then my own eyes blinked in perfect sync. Not of my own will, it was like it had control of me, like we were connected. After that night, I began losing time. Hours would slip by in an instant. I'd find myself in places I didn't remember walking to, standing in the yard at night, barefoot, staring up at the sky. I found drawings in my notebook I didn't remember making, intricate spirals and symbols that made my head ache if I stared too long. My reflection stopped following my movements perfectly. I'd turn my head, and for just a moment, it would lag behind, still staring forward while I looked away. I started hearing whispers, not words, just a language without sound, bleeding into my thoughts like static over a phone line. I knew I was being pulled closer to something, but I didn't know what. The blinking eventually spread to my dreams. I'd wake up convinced I had seen a door behind my closet, or a staircase where none existed. I began dreaming of a place that was beneath the house, a space that didn't belong in any floor plan. A narrow hallway lined with mirrors that didn't show my reflection, only darkness. At the end of the hall, something blinked at me, not with eyes, but with reality. 1 second it was there, the next it wasn't. And each time it blinked, the space around me changed. The walls shifted, the floor stretched, the mirrors cracked. Eventually, I followed it. I don't know if it was a dream or not. I walked down the hallway I had seen so many times in sleep. My footsteps didn't make sound. I passed mirrors that reflected not my body, but my thoughts, my fears, my past, my secrets. When I reached the end, I saw myself standing on the other side of a glass wall. But it wasn't me. Its eyes didn't blink. They were open wide, staring, waiting. I reached out, and it reached back. For a brief moment, our fingers touched through the glass. And in that instant, I blinked. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't. In my room, I was somewhere else, somewhere colder. The air buzzed with that same breathless rhythm. And now, wherever I go, mirrors don't show my reflection. They show someone else, someone who never blinks. It started as a faint humming beneath the floorboards. At first, I thought it was just the house, settling an old creak here, a distant moan there. But this was different. The hum was low, steady, and rhythmic, like a chant buried beneath the foundation of the house itself. I only noticed it at night, usually just after I turned off the lights and lay still in bed. It would vibrate faintly through the mattress and into my bones, so subtle that it was easy to ignore at least for a while. But it never stopped. Night after night, the hum persisted, and eventually, I realized it wasn't fading into the background, like normal sounds do. It was growing stronger. The vibration shifted one night, changing pitch in the middle of the dark. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. It wasn't just a hum anymore, it was a voice. A voice humming a tune I didn't recognize, yet somehow knew. It was hauntingly beautiful in a way that made my skin crawl. I tiptoed to my door and opened it slowly, the hinges creaking just loud enough to make me hesitate. The hallway was empty, but the sound was louder there, coming from beneath my feet. I stared at the wooden floorboards, suddenly aware that they were warmer than they should be. The entire floor pulsed beneath me like a heartbeat, and that song kept playing without pause. I followed it, drawn to it like a sleepwalker. I descended the stairs carefully, every step feeling like it was echoing through something deeper than the house. When I reached the basement door, the humming grew louder, impossibly loud, but only in my head. I couldn't tell if the noise was physical anymore, or if something had crawled inside my mind. I opened the door and stood at the top of the basement steps. The darkness was thick, almost textured, and the moment I flipped the light switch, nothing happened. Dead bulbs. Still, the humming called to me, and I began walking down, one hand grazing the wall for balance. I'd never been afraid of my basement before. It was unfinished, cold, and mostly filled with storage boxes and cobwebs. But this time, it felt like I was descending into something much older than the house itself. The air was heavy, and I felt the pressure build behind my eyes, like I was diving deep underwater. I reached the bottom and waited for my vision to adjust. That's when I saw it, a faint glow seeping through a crack in the far corner of the basement. The humming was coming from there. I knelt and touched the floor. It was vibrating like a heartbeat. I pressed my ear to it, and for a moment, I heard something that wasn't a hum. It was breathing, labored, wet, and slow. Something was alive beneath my basement. I jumped back, heart pounding, and scrambled up the stairs, slamming the door behind me. But once I was back in bed, the humming started again louder. This time, that night, I dreamed of soil and stone, of tunnels carved by clawed hands, of something ancient crawling just beneath the floor, singing in a voice made of echoes. In the days that followed, I tried to ignore it. I stayed out of the basement. I filled my room with noise, TV, music, anything to drown out the hum, but it was useless. The melody was etched into my thoughts. I began drawing strange symbols in my notebooks, unintentionally, over and over. Spirals, repeating patterns, and what looked like a door. I stopped sleeping. Every night, at exactly 3:33 a.m., the house would pulse, and I'd feel something stir beneath it. Not just movement, but awareness. It knew I had heard it. And now, it was listening to me, too. I started noticing changes in the house. The walls grew colder, even in summer. Cracks appeared along the baseboards, but no matter how many times we sealed or painted over them, they returned. Doors would creak open by themselves, and once, I found dirt scattered across the kitchen floor, as if someone had come up from beneath. My parents dismissed it all as coincidence, even when the dog refused to go near the basement door and whimpered every night at 3:33. One night, I woke up and couldn't move. I was paralyzed, my body frozen as the hum became a full chorus. It wasn't just one voice anymore, it was dozens, hundreds, layered atop each other, harmonizing a song with no lyrics. Through the blur of sleep and fear, I saw something crawl out of the floor at the foot of my bed. Not through a hole out of the floor, like it passed through solid matter. Its limbs were too long, and its eyes glowed faintly with that same pulsing rhythm. It didn't speak. It just tilted its head, humming in perfect pitch with the melody in my ears. Then it smiled, and the corners of its mouth kept stretching long after they should have stopped. When I blinked, it was gone. I could move again. I ran to my parents' room, but they didn't wake up no matter how much I shook them. They were breathing, but their eyes twitched rapidly behind closed lids. They were trapped in the same dream, the same hum, the same song. I screamed, but the only thing I could hear was the chorus, swelling around me like the house itself was singing. I don't know what's beneath the house. I don't think it ever slept. It has always been humming, always been calling. We just weren't listening before, but I did. And now, I can't unhear it. When I was 6 years old, I went missing for 3 hours. My parents were frantic. The entire neighborhood was out looking for me, and the police were on their way when I simply walked back into the house as if nothing had happened. I had no bruises, no scratches, and no signs of trauma. I wasn't crying. I wasn't scared. I was calm, too calm, according to my mother. I told them I had just gone for a walk, but when they asked where, I couldn't give an answer. I said I didn't remember, and that was the truth. I didn't. Not then, but lately, I've been remembering things. Not all at once, but in flashes, like old film reels skipping across my mind in the middle of the night. It started when I found the drawing an old, crumpled piece of paper tucked into the back of one of my childhood books. It was a drawing I had made obviously from when I was a kid. Crude stick figures and uneven crayon lines. But what caught my attention was what I had drawn. A circle of tall black figures surrounding a small child standing in a forest. Above them, a red spiral. In the sky, I asked my mother if she remembered anything unusual from that day. She grew quiet, visibly uncomfortable. and said the only thing she remembered was how strange I looked when I came home, like I wasn't sure how to use my body properly, like I was pretending to be myself. I laughed it off at the time, but her words stuck with me. And then the dreams started. In the dreams, I'm standing in a clearing in the woods. I know I'm 6 years old again because everything looks impossibly large. The trees tower over me, and the sky is a deep, endless grey. I hear whispers, dozens of them, coming from all directions, speaking in a language I don't understand. I'm not alone. Tall, black shapes move between the trees, not walking, not floating either, just gliding silently. I should be afraid, but I'm not. There's a sense of belonging, like I'm supposed to be there. The red spiral appears in the sky in every dream. It doesn't move like clouds do. It pulses. Every time it flashes, the world around me seems to stutter, like time is skipping, like frames are missing. And every time it flashes, the figures move closer. One night, I woke up with dirt on my feet and pine needles in my bed. I hadn't been outside. Every door and window was locked from the inside. That's when I started digging into missing persons cases in the area. I found several instances of children vanishing for hours or even days and returning with no memory of where they had been. Some never returned at all. One case in particular stood out. A boy named Jeremy who went missing in 1994. His parents said he came back different. He spoke less, ate less, and within a year he vanished again, this time for good. I found a photo of Jeremy. He looked normal, just a kid. But the expression in his eyes reminded me of one of my own childhood photos, distant, slightly tilted, as if the person behind the eyes wasn't quite human. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever took him had taken me too. The difference was, I came back. The memories kept getting stronger. One night, I woke up mid-sentence, whispering a string of syllables I didn't recognize. I recorded myself. When I played it back, the voice didn't sound like mine. It was higher, strained, like it was being pushed through vocal cords not made for speech. The recording ended with a strange click, rhythmic, patterned, almost insect-like. I started hearing it during the day, faintly, from corners where nothing should be. Then came the shadow, always out of the corner of my eye. It would dart behind doors, under tables, vanish the moment I turned to look. At first, I thought it was stress, paranoia. But it wasn't just me. My cat refused to enter my room anymore. I found claw marks on the hallway wall, high up, too high for any animal. Something was coming back. Something that had marked me, chosen me. I think the red spiral is a gate. Not physical, but dimensional. A tear in the fabric of reality. And whatever lies beyond it doesn't think the way we do. It doesn't move the way we do. It doesn't live the way we do. It borrows us, uses us, and when it's done, it either sends us back or keeps us. I've started sleepwalking again. I've found leaves in the sink, dirt under my nails. I lock my bedroom door every night, but in the morning it's open. I've been dreaming of the clearing again, but this time I'm not alone. There's another child there. He's holding my hand, and he has no face. Just smooth, pale skin where features should be. And when I look into the sky, the spiral is no longer distant. It's closer now, brighter, and I can feel it calling me.